Hi friends, it's Miss LeBlanc and I'm so excited to continue our learning about pollinators. And today we're going to zoom in and learn about one very special type of pollinator. Before we begin, you will need a pencil and at least one piece of paper, maybe two. So press pause real quick and go get something to write with and something to write on. Okay, great. Remember, we're reading an information text, and so we can use text features like headings, pictures, and labels to help us better understand the information as we read. Let's start reading, and when I take a big pause, you help me out by saying the word that I'm leaving out. Let's read the heading together. Get ready. Insect pollinators. There are thousands of kinds of insects that pollinate. They belong to 5 main bees, wasps, butterflies and moths, flies, and beetles. Without these, we would not have many of the foods we eat. Pause there. What are the 5 main groups of insect pollinators? That's right, bees, wasps, butterflies and moths, flies, and beetles. And remember, pollinators are so important because we depend on them for food. Let's turn the page and see if you can predict what pollinator we're going to read about based on the text features you see here. Yes, bees. Let's read the heading together. Get ready. Bees are best. Follow along. There are thousands of kinds of, but the honeybee is the most important pollinator. What's the most important pollinator? The honeybee. Honeybees are social insects. Notice that word social is in bold. That tells us it's important. Social insects live together in called colonies. Each bee colony lives in a hive, which is its home. So what is a home for a bee colony called? That's right, a hive. And groups of bees are called colonies. Notice these bold vocabulary words help us better understand characteristics of bees. Bees collect nectar and from flowers. They pollinate many kinds of fruit trees as well as vegetable. They also make honey, which people. So, what did we learn about honeybees? They're social and live in groups. They collect nectar and pollen from flowers, and they pollinate many kinds of fruit trees and vegetable plants. Let's continue reading about another type of bee. Read this heading with me. Get ready. Bumblebees. The bumblebee is another kind of bee pollinator. There are about 250 species of bumblebees. Bumblebees have big, furry bodies. Like honeybees, these bees live in colonies of 150 to 200. Bumblebees make their underground. The tongues of some bumblebees are short and others are. The long-tongued bees are important pollinators of many, such as beans, tomatoes, and. So, how are bumblebees similar to honeybees? Yes, they both live in colonies. And how are bumblebees also important pollinators? Yes, they have long tongues and pollinate many plants. Notice the text feature here, this picture, gives us a close-up view of the bumblebee's furry body collecting tiny bits of pollen. We're going to return to this text feature to help us do a scientific sketch later. Wow, kiss your brain, second grade readers. You have done such a great job reading about a special pollinator, bees. Now we're going to take some notes to capture our thinking and new learning, and we're going to start our scientific sketch of a bee. So this is where you will need your paper. So go ahead, get your paper, and you're going to draw a line to just separate the paper down the middle. We're gonna save this part down here for our sketch. So I'll just put a little label that that's what that's gonna be later. And here, we're gonna make a chart to hold our notes. And our notes are gonna help us write a paragraph, an information paragraph about bees and why and how they're such important pollinators. So the first thing we're gonna do is draw a little chart. Right here, we're gonna put our pollinator, which is bees. And in this first box, up at the top, we're gonna write why this pollinator is attracted to flowers. So we're gonna go back into the text and figure out what is it about flowers that make the bees want to come and visit them and get that process of pollination started. We're also gonna go in and take notes about the body structures or parts or characteristics that are able to support pollination. So what is true of the bee's body that helps it be a good pollinator? And then our last column is where we're gonna take notes about how this pollinator moves pollen. Because remember, there's a lot of ways that seeds and pollen can be dispersed. And so here's where we're gonna take notes about how bees move the pollen. Okay, so the reason we're taking these notes is because we're gonna begin writing a paragraph about bees and how and why they are important pollinators. So let's go back into the text and figure out why bees are attracted to flowers, what body structures do bees have that support pollination, and how do bees, this pollinator, how do bees move pollen? If you need to press pause real quick to get your chart set up, go ahead and do that now. Okay, great. So we learned in the text that there are thousands of kinds of bees and they all live together and that they collect nectar and pollen from flowers. So let's zoom out. Why are bees going to visit flowers? Well, to collect nectar and pollen. So remember, nectar is that sweet liquid juice that a lot of insects are drawn to. So that's why bees are attracted to flowers, is to get the nectar from them. Now, what did we learn about bees and their bodies that help support pollination? Well, first of all, I noticed this bee's body is very hairy and very furry. And so it looks like that the hair and the fur on the body is helping it collect the pollen. It also says here that bumblebees have big furry bodies. And so that makes me think that, and I'm gonna put a bullet point here, furry bodies, hairs to capture pollen. And I'm also thinking, how do the bees get from one flower to another? What do you notice that the bee has that'll allow it to travel? Yes, wings. So bees can fly from one flower to another. And so that actually leads us to our last column, how this pollinator moves pollen. And you can say that it carries pollen from one plant to another. And I'm also noticing as I peek back over in my text, look at the last body part that the author talks about here. It says the long-tongued bees are important pollinators of many plants, such as beans, tomatoes, and clover. So what body part could I also mention that is important that helps bees pollinate plants? Yes, long tongues, okay? Great. So your last assignment today, as we continue to develop our understanding of bees, you are going to zoom in on this photograph right here of the bee. And on the bottom of your paper, you're going to draw a scientific sketch focusing on the shapes and the parts of the bee and its body. This is going to better help us understand how bees are structured to aid in pollination and how bees move pollen from one flower to another. So press pause and take a look at the photograph of the bee for as long as you need to. Press pause. What different shapes do you notice? How many legs does it have? What do you see that would help? Like, what do you think about its body? Does it have a top, a middle, a bottom? How would you describe its wings? When you're ready, go ahead and go to your paper and you can sketch your drawing of a bumblebee here. And then you can finish up today by finishing this focus statement. Bees are important pollinators because they blank. So, work on your sketch, your scientific sketch of your bumblebee right here. And then finish up your work today by starting on your focus statement. Bees are important pollinators because they blank. You can talk about how they collect nectar and pollen. You can talk about how they have special body structures to aid in pollination. Or you can talk about why pollination itself is important, which is going to help us understand why bees are important. All right, friends, I cannot wait to join you next time where we're going to take our notes about bees and we're going to take our sketch of our bee and we're going to take our focus statement and we're going to continue drafting our paragraph about why bees are such important pollinators. Thanks so much, friends. I miss you and I'll see you next time. Bye.